Okay, today's lesson for plants for food and fiber is topic 5, sustaining the soil. So it will be a two-part lesson. So we're going to look at soil, where it comes from, what it's made of, and so on. So if we look at this diagram here, we can see soil here, and like 45% of it is minerals, 25% of it is air, 25% of it is water, 5% of it is organic matter. So in this instance here, and there's going to be different types of soil we're going to talk about. Some examples are shown here: chalky, clay, peat, silt, sandy, and loamy. All right, but first of all, why is soil important? So we know it's a place for plants to sink their roots and anchor themselves. And without soil, if there were strong winds or violent storms, rainstorms and so on, it would just tear the plants right out of the soil or tip them over. All right, a natural community with billions of residents per cubic meter. So soil, it's made up of lots and lots of organisms, and it also stores nutrients, air, water, as well as supplies. It supplies them to plants, but it also stores, like I showed in the beginning here, it's made up of minerals, air, water, and organic matter. So soil is critical in ecosystems. As we know, when we looked at food webs, plants are important, or they're the base of food webs, right? So plants, they need that soil to survive and thrive. So we'll just watch this quick video here on where does soil come from. So next we are looking at how do soils develop. So five main factors that affect how soil develops. So one is the parent material. So like the video was showing, it depends on what type of rock it's coming from. So the mineral, which is the non-organic matter, the rock, soil, or clay from which the soil developed, that is the parent material. Vegetation, that determines the amount and type of organic matter in and on the soil. It also protects the soil from erosion. Next is landscape, that affects the amount of water. So healthy soil that has spaces between particles to hold water and air for roots. If there's too much water in the soil, then there is less oxygen available. The climate determines what kinds of plants will grow and how fast they decompose. Warmth and moisture, it's required for soil organisms to break down plant and animal matter and change it to humus. As the video showed, humus is that really dark colored part of the soil, and it's very rich in nutrients such as nitrogen, phosphorus, potassium, and sulfur. So it's that very dark, almost black colored soil that we saw in the video. And time as well. All of these processes, they do take a long period of time. All right, looking at this diagram here, when I speak of a horizon, I'm speaking of the layers in a cross section of soil. So if we just dig straight down, we're looking at a cross section of soil, and that's called the horizon. And the top soil is the topmost layer of the soil. It's dark colored and rich in humus. So firstly here in this diagram A, that is soil under grassland. Okay, so this is what it would look like in a typical grassland area. In well-drained soils, the roots are active throughout the upper layers of the soil. So as those roots die, bacteria will decompose them. So the resulting organic matter gives that top soil, or the upper horizon, it's going to be a brown or black color. So in general, the more moisture that grassland receives, the more organic matter there will be, and the darker the topsoil will be. Next is looking at soil under forest. So this here is the diagram for soil under forest. So here again, if it's a well-drained soil under forest, most of the organic matter is added at the top as leaves. All right. Instead of below as roots. Okay, the reason being is tree roots, they live a very long time. So the soil will remain a grayish brown color, usually the color of the parent material or lighter. And fungi will cause most of the decomposition of the leaves at that surface. And usually this top horizon is quite acidic. And lastly is soil that is underwater. So this type of soil is saturated with water, and therefore there's going to be very low or very little amounts of oxygen available for any kind of decomposer to live or work. So organic matter, it doesn't decay, it just kind of collects on the soil surface. The parent material will not really change except for the color. The saturated soil, it may have a bluish tinge. Right, so healthy soil, so we've spoken about humus quite a bit already. So it's that dark soil that's rich in nutrients and it holds water well. And healthy soil, it needs decomposers. Decomposers are very important for healthy soil because they break down the dead organisms so that plants can then use the nutrients from the soil. So there's 4 key types of decomposers. They work a bit differently from each other. First are bacteria. They actively break down dead plant and animal material. Next are fungi. These are mushrooms and molds, and they make nutrients available to plants. They're important for forest soils where soils are cooler and acidic. Okay, microscopic actinomycetes. These are special kinds of bacteria that decompose organic material and they help to create the humus. And then there are earthworms, which eat the soil, they grind it, digest it, and mix it up. They also create those tunnels in the soil, which helps keep air in the soil. All right, let's watch this next video. Just gonna pause it here. All right, so select that video. All right, so just a recap of that previous video we just saw. So soil, it is alive. This fact here, each shovel of soil holds more living things than all the human beings ever born. So it's full of lots of bacteria, it's full of earthworms and insects and so on. And again, soil consists of air, water, minerals, and organic material. Okay, so healthy plants require these 6 nutrients. So nitrogen, sulfur, phosphorus, calcium, potassium, and magnesium. So those are the 6 key nutrients that healthy plants require. Now you'll see the ones bolded: nitrogen, phosphorus, and potassium. So those are the nutrients that plants often need more of. So those are the major nutrients. So again, nitrogen, phosphorus, and potassium. And here, if you look at a bag of fertilizer, it usually has those 3 numbers on the bag of fertilizer. So in this case, 12, 14, 18. And what those numbers indicate are the percentage of each of those 3 nutrients. So the 12, 14, 18, that means it contains 12% nitrogen, 14% phosphorus, and 18% potassium. And it's always in that order. So nitrogen is very important because it's important for healthy foliage, chlorophyll production, and vegetative growth. Phosphorus is important for the development of flowers and strong roots. And then potassium is important for hardy growth, so synthesized proteins and carbohydrates. All right, we're just going to look at some different types of soil. So we have sandy soil. This type of soil, it'll run between the fingers. It's got very few lumps. So color is about a light brown. If moistened and squeezed, the soil will not stay together. And most of the particles, they are mineral particles, and there's very little humus in sandy soil. So it doesn't contain much food for plants, and it does dry quickly because water just runs through it very fast. Next is clay soil. It feels very slippery when moist. If you squeeze wet clay, it will stick together and form a tight ball. Dry clay gets very hard, and its color depends on what type of mineral particles that compose it. lots of minerals, very little humus, and the mineral particles are very small, so it has a very fine texture. It can hold water and nutrients, but air cannot easily penetrate, especially when the pores are filled with water. And then we have the loam soil. It's very crumbly, like a moist cake. If you squeeze it, if you squeeze wet loam, it will form a loose ball. It's not sticky. It's a dark brown or black color, and it does have a balance between organic particles and the mineral particles. So it does absorb enough water to stay moist for a long time, but not so much that it will not have enough air in the spaces between the soil particles. And so this type of soil, it has plenty of nutrients for plants, and it is very good for growing most plants. Right, so this is just again showing the types of soil: sandy, clay, and then here's the loamy soil. And we'll watch this video on why different soils feel different, and that's where we'll stop today.